Good morning. This is our Zoom number 100, and this is June 14th, 2025. This is a little too early, but I will admit those that are here already. Sometimes there are some people who are early, but I intentionally started early so that I could do some introduction and some preview for people to know what we're about to talk about. This summer, there's going to be a lot of interviews going on at different schools, so this is a good idea to be talking about interview questions. And also, the first of the year activities might be also a relevant topic because some people are already getting ready to think about how they're going to fix their classrooms. For example, my niece, Ara May, is going to be starting her school year, so I know she'll be looking for things for ideas in order to get her classroom set up. So I thought I was doing an ITSA series called First of the Year series, and so far I have done two. So I would invite folks to look at that because you might be able to get some ideas that might help you for this coming school year. It addresses from classroom management, classroom strategies, and more. So I would invite you to do that. So for those that are new or have never seen our video, my name is Dr. Melina McCullough. I wish my background is really in Arkansas. It's not. So it's just a virtual background for Zoom. I live in Arkansas, and as you know, Arkansas is actually landlocked, so we don't have this view unless it's a lake. We don't have this ocean, but we do have lots of lakes and rivers. But I've been here in Arkansas for 38 years. Married my husband in 87. We have two kids, Jet and Stephanie. Jet is 26 and Stephanie is 35. They are now both have their own homes, so we are alone here in our house in Arkansas. And the other two kids are in Nashville, and our grandkids are in Nashville, Sedona, and Alley. And now Sydney is in Batesville, which is about an hour and 15 minutes from us. We love them to death. I just wish they live closer. But anyway, so hopefully this Zoom will help you with classroom strategies and interview tips and all kinds of teaching ideas and even cultural information about the differences between life in the US and life in the Philippines. In fact, I've been showing some of my garden and also some cooking because I want those that are still in the Philippines to see, to kind of preview what life is here in Arkansas. Of course, every state's gonna be different. Arkansas we are in the south, so our weather will be a little mild. We don't have as much snow. We do get snow, but it's not as heavy as the one in the northeast area like New York and New Jersey and all those other places because on the northeast side of the United States. So if you want to live in a state where it's like the Philippines, then you're going to have to choose California, Florida, or what's the other one? California, Florida, or Hawaii. So those are my daughter, the seven lives in Hawaii, and I absolutely love it there. But they would have the growing season all year long, which means you can plant your garden and they won't die in the winter like mine. Mine, I have to replant a bunch of things every year, or unless you have a perennial, some perennial plants, and you wouldn't have to worry about it. They'll just come right back. My roses will come right back and so on. But anyway, my experiences are being I had been a teacher, a classroom teacher for 15 years, and the rest of the time I'd rather that close to that long, I was an administrator. So K-12 literacy specialist, mentor coordinator, assistant principal, curriculum director, ESL director, and national board coordinator. So lots of hats. But I retired from the Department of Education as a K-12 literacy specialist, where we did some training across the state, across our 15 co-ops, list cooperatives, where teachers would actually get their training. So I was fortunate enough to be part of that team that did that, and I retired in 2016. But since I was not even 50 yet, I decided, you know what, I need to continue to work in education and possibly give back. And this is why ITSA was formed, International Teacher Support in America. I founded it with my sister, Milet Trotter, and my best friend, Lisa Bailey, or now Lisa Dale, because there is a need for teachers in Arkansas and beyond in the other 49 states. So, and also at the same time, it will help the Filipino teachers and other teachers from other parts of the world to come, and their income would be at least 8 to 10 times better. So I think so far, I know in Arkansas we have less than 100, but all over the United States, we should have close to 200 now that's here since we had started ITSA. So thank you, thank you, thank you so much for supporting our page on Facebook and also on YouTube. So if you've not been a member to those or subscribers, do that, please. You can just type ITSA, ITSA, and my name, Merlina McCullough, and you should be able to find it. Anyway, I have two Facebook pages, actually three. My personal, which is Merlina McCullough, and I have the second one, which is um, international educators supporting each other. That's my main one with 8,300 something followers. And I think the ITSA main one is the ITSA page, and it has 5.1 the last time I checked, 5,100 something members. So hopefully you will subscribe to them, and including YouTube. Okay, so it's nearly time, so I'm hoping Mike will come in early. But what I would like to share are things that I did on my first of the year series. I just finished that, so I thought I'd share that with you guys. And while waiting on everyone to come in, I'm looking for the material. So it's only 6:40 here, and we start at 7. So that's why it's too early still. And let me see, first of the year. Okay, so I call this classroom roundup. And the first one is about rules and relationship, which is about getting a welcoming tone, and you have to do a co-create your classroom agreements with your students. Like, for example, together you can come up with your 4 or 5 rules. Some rules could be very big, so it will cover a lot. Like, for example, respect. Respect will cover a lot. So anyway, you come up with those together with your students, and that they will have a buy-in, and so if you have any problems, you just point to the it has to be posted. So point to the wall and say, okay, you just violated number 2. Remember, we talk about this, and of course, you do talk about what does this look like. In my classroom, I always had a non-example, an example. What does this look like? And then I would have them to role play what it should be and what it could not be. So the good one and the bad one. But anyway, so role playing would be a good strategy, by the way, to do. And so that's begin building trust with students. You do individual check-in. You can do a check-in, rate your day, or rate your, yeah, rate your day so far as 1 to 5 or 1 to 10, and explain why. And of course, you have to model this. You have to do it too. When your students are writing, you write too. So if you set it for 5 minutes, then you write for 5 minutes. Okay, after you've done your housekeeping, like attendance or lunch count or whatever here. So then you share it. So you model that. This is what I wrote in my notebook, in my journal. What did you do in yours? Having a journal is always a good idea for any grades. In kindergarten, they can even practice their letters there later on when they start learning their letters. So, high school, definitely, to get their ideas in. And you need to also look at their CUMEs, cumulative records. And this is where the records, your students' record from beginning, from usually from kindergarten on up. So you want to check out and see what were the other teachers saying about this child, and what kind of grades this child was making, what kind of, was this child moving from one school to another. I mean, those are information that you want. I always used to get a notebook, I take it to the office, and I would take notes of every student. But I would dedicate a page or two for every student, and I would just take notes off of what I see on the record, and I would know this data or whatever, if there's any data at all, and so I just kind of take that time. I never had very many students. Usually had less than 20. So that is very doable to do. If when you have 150, it might be a different story. So you would do like an interest inventory. You can do an MI or multiple intelligences test that they can take online. There's so many different personal inventories that you can give them to get to know them. So your first week of the school year should be all about getting to know kids. While you're getting to know them, they're also getting to know you. So be vulnerable, because you know what they say, vulnerability breeds trust. So if you are being vulnerable, then they're going to trust you. Okay. So remember that the respect part too, that you don't demand it, you earn it. And so you do that by being kind as well. If you want the students to be kind to you and to others, you have to model that in your classroom. I always try to model that in my classroom, and I always thought of my students as my own biological kids. So if I had 20 that year and I have two kids of my own, so I had 22, but anyway, but that's kind of what I always did, was try to make sure that I would treat them like I would Jet and Stephanie. And I always suggest to others that, or even as administrator or as a teacher, try to imagine when you're disciplining a child, try to imagine like there's an invisible parent sitting next to the child. Because if you do that, then you're going to be more careful with what you're saying. Okay. So that's what bothers me, is when teachers are really screaming at the kids. That really bothers me. I know that's somebody's child, and that cannot be good for the self-esteem and so on. I mean, that teacher, if you have any anger management issue, you need to take care of it. You cannot let it out and take it out on the kids, because that's not fair, right? And they're gonna model that. They're gonna see the wrong modeling there. They're gonna see that it's okay to scream at someone. It's not. It's never okay. So don't bring your personal problems or issues at school. It doesn't matter if I was stressed out or anything about other factors in my life, especially when I was going to school and teaching and managing businesses with my husband. And so when I was so busy and being a mom, but I was never, I mean, as stressed as I was, I'd never took it out on my kids. I tried to get a balance. Like, I'm here, I'm fully present, I'm here, I'm engaged with you guys. But then after school, I'll do my other things, my extracurricular things. But you have to do some kind of balance like that. You cannot be like, oh my goodness, you're so ornery. Teacher, the kids would not like to be in your room because you were just, ornery and in bad mood all the time. You don't want that. Nobody wants that for a teacher. Okay, you don't want your experiences of your students to be something that's a negative thing, right? So I know as an international teacher, they're gonna be forming their their impression of you the very first day they meet you. And so they may or may not have any international teachers, that have taught them yet before ever. So you are the first impression of any, foreign teacher that's here. So you want it to be good. You want it to be a pleasant experience. At the same time, though, there is a little line. Like, if you're just too nice, they might just think, oh, just too nice. I can just do whatever. No, you still need to be firm. You still need to, let them know really that I care about you. I want you to succeed in my classroom, but I am going to discipline you if you get out of line. So we have to follow the rules. And so that's why first day of school, the rules should be talked about. Okay? Because otherwise You're not going to be, they're not going to know what the expectations, especially if you have new students. Oh my goodness, they really need to know what the rules are for sure. And so the next thing that I found was about embedding higher order. We need to make sure that you embed higher order skills in your classroom, and you can do this by having open-ended questions. So, for example, if you say, "What do you think will happen if?" and how did you reach that conclusion? For example, so it's a how and why question instead of like what. Because a what question is low level, and that's just a recall comprehension question, really low. You want them to be thinking higher level, so which means reasoning and explaining and so on. So I never took one word answer from my students. I always wanted them to speak in a complete sentence. Okay, so when you talk, I want you to talk in complete sentence, just like when you write, I want you to write in complete sentences. And so anyway, so that's just kind of my little quirks, being a literacy specialist. I want them to be always remembering that really when you're writing, it's like thinking on paper. So I want you to think in complete sentences, I guess. Get your thought together and look at discussing it and explaining it and so on. And so you always promote analysis of ideas. You want them to analyze everything that you're doing. The topic that you're doing, you're having them to discover, to explore. It should not just be to cover the topic. It should be to uncover. Uncover is more important than just to cover and check it off, okay? So you want it to be relevant, you want it to connect to their lives, and that's when they'll remember it because it means something. It became meaningful when you had them to connect it to something about their lives. And you're incorporating critical thinking tasks that's about problem solving and engaging students in debates, for example, or simulations, or trying to help them make decisions. You should not be the only one making decisions in your classroom. In my classroom, I had a collaborative classroom, and when I was administrator, I also had a collaborative leadership skills that's my style, is being collaborative, that I want people to have input because I think you have more buy-in if you have input from folks, either students, teachers, parents, or whoever stakeholders you have. It's better, but collaborative instead of Hitler style. Hitler style is authoritative, and authoritative is like my way or the highway. It has to be my way, or else I'm going to be mad. Nobody likes that, especially high school students. Well, even elementary too, but especially high school students, they really cannot stand it when they are like, being told what to do in a very kind of rude and authoritative way. You can still get them to do something, but try to make it, collaborative. Let them have input. And you always encourage students to reflect. You have to say, I have to reflect. What was the most challenging part of this activity? So when you have an activity, you're gonna be debriefing always debrief your activities. So you always want to say, okay, think about the activity. What was the most challenging part? What was the easiest part for you? And so on. What was the more fun part? Where your team really got into it, and so how could you improve? That's always like, when I have group activities with my students, I always had them to do a group rubric where I give them a rubric that, okay, you rate yourself a 1 to 10 and explain why. So every person had to rate them. We rate our, team, whatever team they name them, an 8 because two people did not, they don't have to say the names, but two people did not really help, or two people just had a free ride or whatever, and where we didn't get along, people were arguing, they're telling on themselves, but they don't give themselves a 10 or even a 9 if they had issues with getting along. So you can, it's kind of neat to see that oh, I didn't even know they were having those issues, until you read their self-reflection. So that was something I did a lot, is having them to reflect on how they did. And this is something you should do starting first of the year. Do that. I would encourage you to do that. And the next one is about using technology. I have a digital series. It's a digital series that I've been doing. And so I would encourage you to do that. I think I had 11 different ones from all the subject areas to all the different grades, elementary, high school, middle school, and even early learners. And then so I have apps like, this one here, it says the best free edtech tools for Casey's classrooms are Nearpod. If you don't have that, you can try Nearpod. Khan Academy. There's a Khan Academy for kids too. Seesaw and Epic. Class Jojo. I think most people are using that, especially on discipline type thing. And then Scratch, which is coding app. And then Google Earth, if you're teaching social studies or anything with location. If you're having them do some kind of problem solving where you travel, for example, different parts of the world, and then you have them form like they are now family. They can name their family, who's the mom, who's the dad, how many kids, what age will they, and where are they traveling? And where they're traveling, they're going to have to find out, like with Google Earth, where is it? And then with Google, finding out like airlines, if they're going to travel somewhere and they have certain budget, they're going to try to, look for the airline tickets. And when they get there, how much would the hotel, which hotel would they be, and all that. So there's a lot of discussion going on, and it's actually budgeting too and getting along. And so it depends on what your goal would be. But having them to kind of work as a team to problem solve something, Google Earth can be useful for that. So that's the ed tech tools. And then the next one is about differentiation. You have to make sure that try to tier your activities, or tiered activities are important because it provides you with a level of challenge that is still the same content, but it's just a higher challenge. For example, you're gifted and talented. Here in America, we call them GT, gifted and talented learners. Then you can challenge them with a more complicated or harder tasks, but they're still learning the same things. You're just making them do some kind of mini project or something, or a performance task, instead of just really simple like the others. And offer them choice boards, give them choices, this or this or this, so sometimes they can come up with different choice boards that you can do. Okay, so they would select their tasks that match their interests, their strength, or their needs. So the choice boards are important because you could come up with choice boards that would match, for example, the multiple intelligences. When you do that, the MI, then they will choose things. For example, if they're good singers, they're gonna choose a task where they have to come up with a song or whatever for the topic. And you have to implement flexible grouping, which means it's fluid groups based on their skill level. In some things, you want them to be homogeneous. According to research, your gifted kids are going to actually do well with other gifted kids. So think about that and make it flexible. And so sometimes you do it because of their learning styles. And a lot of times, when I have new students and I observe them and see who they interact with and whoever they're friendly with, I try to make sure they kind of sit with somebody that they have formed this little connection with. And that way they'll have a better or faster adjustment time. You might want to think about that too. And you can differentiate the content, you can modify the material, or completely, or even the complexity of it, in order to make sure that you address the needs of, this different students in your classroom who are ready, who are not ready, who needs a little more scaffolding or support. So that's something that you can do on differentiation. On the next one is about engagement. You said engaging the disengaged, which is really strategy for motivating students. So, of course, I already mentioned connecting to their lives, offering choices, another one. Make it active anytime that they're active. I do a lot of role playing in my classroom. If we're studying about wind, I want you to move like the wind, or waves, or whatever it says, and they're moving all over the room and so on. And make it that way. That way it's more fun for the kids. especially after lunch, because they get so sleepy. And if they are, they're gonna not pay attention. So anyway, so make it active, and build on strength. So recognize their skills and needs, and then highlight those strengths, have them, encourage them. I had kids, I had students that I noticed were really good dancers or really good singers or artists. I would always encourage them during the group works that, hey, have you thought about having so and so sing, or have you ever thought about making a rap or making a poetry or making, I would encourage them to do that because I knew somebody's good at it, those are some things that you could do in order to engage your disengaged. And for for the last one is about um, using anchor chart. You need to make sure that if you have anchor charts, they should not just be decoration in the room. They should actually need to be used. Okay, so you have to co-create with students. So you have to do it collaboratively with them. That's the best way. And then you have to gradually add information to it. So it's an organic thing. You build, you continue to build it and you continue to refer to it, and do some color coding. Use some different colors on, if you're doing direction, if you're doing, so you're going to use different color pens or markers. Keep them simple. You have to use clear headers and then visuals, and yeah, color coding for organization would really make a difference. And make them accessible. You display that, and where students, it's eye level to them. You have to the limit number of displayed for focus, so you cannot do so many of them. You need to kind of take some down that you're not done or you're done anymore, that you're done already, and take it down, put it away, and then put the ones that you really are using now for whatever unit you're doing. And you have to refer to it during lessons, because if you don't ever refer to an anchor chart, then it's going to become a decoration. You don't want anchor charts to be decorations. Okay, so you always review and you always revisit it, and you need to relate it to rotate your outdated charts, and you revisit important ones in order to keep. So those are some things that you can do. I'm squinting because I don't have my glasses. I need to go get my glasses in a few minutes. Okay, so those are some things I want to share with you for first of the year. And I have not sent any reminders to everyone, so I'm gonna pause this and I'm gonna see if I could send some reminders. They may have forgotten.